Ladies ladies and gentlemen, it is March the 12th, 2025. The NFL league year has begun. It's 18:30 hours here on the East Coast of America, and the Jets are making moves. Some good, some bad, some very, very bad. And we're going to talk about them. I'm going to need to be talked off the ledge. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Phil Adams is here. The great Phil Adams. If Frankie don't know it, it ain't worth knowing. Jimmy Jets is here. The great Jimmy Jets. Duncan Lloyd is here. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay in the chat before we start rambling on about all the happenings on the first day of the league year of the NFL. More moves are rolling in as we speak, and we'll keep our eye on them as well to see if some of these subsequent moves can put me in a better mood. Jimmy says, sounds good. All right, good. Glad to hear that. Now, the Jets made some moves. The latest move that we have on the board, as of loud and clear, says Harlan. All right, thank you, thank you. As of 11 minutes ago, former Packers center Josh Myers has agreed to terms with your New York Jets on a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. 4 year starter in Green Bay, back with Justin Fields, his Ohio State teammate. So this move makes a lot of sense. This is Josh Myers. The center was a starting center for Green Bay, but he was not a very good starting center. He was let's say not great, but good enough to be a backup. And he's coming here on backup money. 1 year, 3.5 million tells you he's a backup. So this is Joe Tippmann's backup, and he'll also back up the two guard spots. So this is a good move. This is the kind of move I would like to see. This is the kind of move that came after I wrote the headline for this program saying Darren Mougey's making terrible moves. This is actually a good move. This is just a backup lineman. He's familiar with Justin Fields as the center. Okay, perfect. Um, that's a nice move. Okay, that's not the moves I was talking about when I was talking about terrible moves by Darren Mougey. And if you saw on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter or X, I have people getting in my mentions, getting in some of my commentary, trying to make sense of some of these moves, and they don't even know who some of these people are, and they're trying to have a conversation with me. I know who they are, at least, um, and so it gets a little frustrating sometimes. But that's the latest move by the Jets. But some of the things we should talk about is we did not sign, for example, Brandon Eccles. Brandon Eccles went over to the Steelers. And instead of signing Brandon Eccles to a cheap deal, we signed Brandon Stevens to an expensive deal, relatively expensive. Can someone explain that to me? Eccles is better and cheaper, and we drafted him. Why did Mougey decide to go with Brandon Stevens, who's a decidedly bad cornerback, instead of, and paying him at least 11 million? We still have to see how that contract is structured. And instead of going with our homegrown talent of Brandon Eccles, who's probably as good, if not better, than Brandon Stevens. Yeah, PC Salami said, "Yeah, I saw your Twitter feed. Yeah, you saw me get a little upset, PC, because somebody's trying to argue with me about something, and he doesn't even know who the player is." And I said, "Look, if you don't know who this player is, then you shouldn't be having this discussion with me. Like, how can you have a discussion with me about what the Jets are doing and the plan and what this means and what it means for going forward and what we're doing with our cash spending and what it means for the cap and all these things that I'm trying to discuss and figure out and understand." And he doesn't even know who the player we're talking about is. You never heard of him before. It's like, well, then you got to step out of the discussion, bro. If you don't even know who the player is, if you've never heard of him, then you're not in this conversation. I'm sorry, you know. But Eccles, so Lloyd says, look it, man. We could have made it worth his while. Brandon Eccles, we give him a starting job here, and give him 8 million. Now it doesn't say how much the Steelers are giving him, but does anyone know what the contract is for Brandon Eccles? Let me know if that's been announced. I'm assuming it's going to be $7-8 million. Uh, Rappaport doesn't have the number, but we're paying Stevens at least 11. I mean, if we could have made it worth his while, Duncan, there's no reason he wouldn't want to play with Sauce and Michael Carter II, etc. No reason why. What, he wants to go over to the Steelers, play on the grass of Pittsburgh. But we don't have the number. I mean, maybe they blew him away, but they're saying he's going to be a backup in Pittsburgh. That's what they're saying. Because don't forget, Pittsburgh just also signed Darius Slay. So they have Darius Slay. They have Porter Jr. They have their starting guys. We could have given him a chance to start at starter money. So I don't buy that one, Duncan. I don't. Now it's possible he didn't want to be here. Of course, it's always possible, and that's one of the problems with being a loser franchise like we are. But I don't. Okay, even if you want to let Brandon Eccles go, I still don't understand the Brandon Stevens signing at all. The other thing that got me going was not signing Levi Onwuzurike or Malik Collins. They both signed relatively close. Hargrave got 19 million guaranteed. That I understand. Malik Collins, the Browns gave 2-year deal for 20 mil, 13 fully guaranteed. That's it, 13. So for 13 mil, you could have had Malik Collins. For 5.5, you could get Levi Onwuzurike. This is the one that really pissed me off. The Lions are signing Levi Onwuzurike, and it's a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. Explain to me this: we don't have, we couldn't give a 2 year, say $15 million deal to Levi Onwuzurike. We couldn't do that. We couldn't do that. I mean, come on. Or you don't want to go for that. How about Malik Collins? We couldn't do a better deal than getting a Malik Collins. Malik. Uh, where's old homeboy here? Malik. Yeah, Malik Collins. What's that? 13 million. I mean, we need defensive tackles very badly, and I'm not seeing any signings by the Jets for defensive tackle. And all the good ones are coming off the board. This is what got me fired up. Onwuzurike is the one I wanted, and he went back to Detroit for just 5.5 million. We could have done so much better on this than this deal. We could have given him a 2-year, $16 million deal. Come on back and play for Aaron Glenn. Let's go. I mean, and then on top of that, we hear that we signed Chuks Okorafor, who nobody's going to ever pronounce his name correctly. But this is a guy who quit on the Patriots last year. He quit, mentally checked out, and decided, I don't want to play football anymore. And that's a guy we signed. The guy says, no, I'm mentally checked out. But he's going to come to the Jets and be super excited. He wasn't excited to play for the Patriots, 6-time Super Bowl winners. But he won this year. Yeah, he'll come to the Jets and be super excited. Explain that one to me. I mean, here's another one. Kevin Zeitler signs 1 year, $9 million for Tennessee. He's a guard. If you wanted to push AVT out to tackle, you could have signed Kevin Zeitler for $10-11 million. He goes over to the Titans and gets 9 million for 1 year. Yes, he's a little aged, but he played very well last year. And now the Titans have Dan Moore, Peter Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry, Kevin Zeitler, J.C. Latham. Then that's starting to be a good line right there for the Titans. So I think between the news about Levi on Levi going back to the Lions and Chuks, as they call him, being signed by us, I was just, I mean, somebody, I was ready to say, and I said on Twitter, we're not a serious franchise with these signings and non-signings. I mean, I don't understand how we could sign Chuks, not sign Levi, Now, this Josh Myers signing, okay, he's a backup, fine. It's a 1-year deal for 3.5 million. That's a good signing. And now, more news. As of 2 minutes ago, the Jets have released linebacker CJ Mosley. I don't like this either. We're not a serious franchise. I'm sorry. How do you bring in Chuks, who quit on his team, and to the captain, you say goodbye? Tell me that. Explain to me that. How are we a serious franchise? Because he costs too much against the cap? Give me a break. Smartest guy you'll ever see on defense, CJ Mosley. Goodbye. See you later. Well, let's bring in a guy who is mentally checked out and quit on his team. Let's bring him in. Why? Why? Somebody explain that to me. What kind of a culture are we bringing in here? We release CJ Mosley, the heart and soul and brains of the defense for all these years, and we bring in Chuks Okorafor, who quit and said, I'm leaving and left the team. He left the team. He walked away physically, left. Goodbye. They had to put him on the left team list. And that's the guy we're bringing in. And we're letting CJ Mosley go. And we're bringing in Brandon Stevens and we're letting Brandon Eccles go. Explain these moves to me. I'd love to know. I'd love to know. It's ridiculous. I don't care what his situation with the cap is. It's not a devastating thing, and we could have kept him around, CJ, just for his leadership alone. For a new crew coming in here, just for his leadership alone, you keep him on the team. I think. Not like his cap was going to be 50 million if we keep him or something crazy. Talking in the low millions. So I have yet to understand any of these. Well, not any of them, but I don't understand the big picture with these Mougey moves. I'm not seeing a strategy. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff happening. We're bringing in bums and we're signing some decent people and we're letting our leaders go. That's what I'm seeing. So I'm not too happy at the moment, in case you can't tell. I'm not too happy at the moment. Now things could change. Maybe the picture will become clear sooner or later. I don't know. I mean, we don't have any wide receivers. What wide receivers do we have? Where's our wide receiver? Who are we going to throw to? Uh, Garrett Wilson's triple teamed. Who are we throwing to? Oh, Malachi Corley couldn't even get on the field year last year. Man, let's go through some of these chats. Maybe you guys can help me out here. Maybe I'm missing something. We should draft a right tackle. Yeah, I'd say so. But then what? Yeah, we should exactly, Harlan. But it's like we should have signed. You could have signed Brandon Eccles, but instead you signed Brandon Stevens. It's not like you went out and replaced Eccles, or didn't sign Eccles, but did sign Carlton Davis, say, or somebody of that ilk. You signed Brandon Stevens, who every Ravens fan was singing hallelujah. He's not on the team anymore. Ask any Ravens fan about Brandon Stevens. Go ahead. They'll say, oh, whew, so glad he's not here anymore. He stinks on ice. That's the guy we signed. Well, we can't have Eccles, though. That's not good. I think covering people, PC, is something you should be able to do. Covering people with ball skills. Here's what they're going to tell you about Stevens. He never turns his head. Have you heard of that before for Jet cornerbacks where they're playing defense and they're defending and they don't turn their head and it's DPI all day? That's what this guy does, Stevens. He doesn't turn his head. No ball skills. That's what we got. Yeah, EC says maybe Eccles didn't want to stay. Fine. Could be. But if we gave him starter money, EC, I bet you he would have stayed if we gave him starter money. Where we go from here? Here's a Baltimore fan, it seems like. There you go. This is what I was just saying. This is what I just said. Yeah. I guess you're a Baltimore fan, but yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a little bit of a problem for a cornerback. You got to turn your head. Remember Kyle Wilson? Yeah. Ah, yeah, Duncan, we got him. We got him. Yeah, PC. Where's the defensive tackles? What are we gonna draft? I mean, we can't draft everybody. You're lucky if you hit on 3 players in a draft. 4 is a bonanza. We only have 8 picks, so we're not going to hit on all 8. It doesn't happen. You're lucky if you hit 3 out of 8. You're lucky. You should hit 2 out of 8. 3, you got a good draft. 4, it's a home run draft. So you can't say we're going to take 2 defensive tackles and an offensive tackle and a safety and a wide. What about wide receiver? We got no wide receivers on the team, and we're going to draft tight ends. What about tight ends? We got no tight ends. Where are they? I'm not seeing them. Philip Bogachuk says, "Yeah, maybe, but that doesn't mean you have to sign Chuks for sure. Like some of the things we did do positively, like Brandon Eccles probably would have stayed if we gave him starter money. I guarantee you. We didn't have to sign Brandon Stevens. We didn't have to sign Chuks Okorafor. We didn't have to do that. Now, some of the ones we didn't sign, okay, then that's a good point. Maybe they don't want to come. Maybe they don't want to come here. That's one of the problems with being a loser franchise that's in the ghetto of the NFL, as I have often said. In case people have missed my metaphor for the NFL, the NFL is like a city, and in the city, you got the ghetto, you got the middle class neighborhood, and you got the gated community. The gated community are the teams that are always in perennial contention for the Super Bowl, like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, all those, the Eagles now. The middle class are the teams that are in the middle, and they sometimes contend and sometimes they don't. And then you have the ghetto where we live and the Bears live and all the bad teams live. And Patriots probably have slipped into the ghetto here the last 4 or 5 years, but they're going to probably crawl into the middle class neighborhood this year, if I had to guess. Um, and so if you're a ghetto team, and that's what we are, yeah, you're going to have a hard time um, getting players to come here. But at some point, then you then have to do something. So, like, if Mougey took this job and didn't have a plan for that, so one of the things you would think if you're ownership, you're going to have to say to these candidates who are interviewing for this job, look, we have a little bit of trouble in free agency. We can get some mid tier guys. We have a hard time getting the best guys here in free agency sometimes because they don't want to come here. We haven't won in a while. We don't have a winning culture here. It's New Jersey, not, and a lot of the athletes want to go down south and all that. Um, so what's your plan for that, right? So a plan would be, well, we're going to have to trade some of our assets that are coming up for a new contract in order to load up on draft picks. And we're going to have to kill the draft. And we're going to have 10 to 12 draft picks every year. And we're going to have to kill the draft and just knock it out of the park, all the time on the draft and then develop it and really make it truly draft and develop. But I didn't see any trades occur to stockpile our draft picks this year or next year or any year that Mougey made, right? So that's the thing about Mougey, and that's the thing that I'm thinking about as I'm trying to understand his strategy. When Joe Douglas was the general manager up until the Rodgers era, I could predict reliably or at least understand all the moves that Joe was making, and it made sense because we understood the direction he was going in the beginning. It was a total teardown, and then we started to build it up, and then we made the decision with the quarterback, and we were hoping and praying he would develop, which he did not. And then but all the moves up till then made a lot of sense to me until we acquired Rodgers and the money men got involved, and then everything fell apart there. So now we have this new regime in, and I'm trying to understand what is what is the strategy going forward considering our situation? Like, it's not a new thing, Philip, that some of the free agents don't want to come here. That's not new. That's not a brand new thing. We've been talking about it for years, especially on this channel. People don't want to go to a losing franchise. They don't want to go to a team without a quarterback situation that's settled. And they certainly don't want to go live in New Jersey. Those are all bad things and they don't want to play on artificial turf. They want to play on grass. So those are all negatives in our for our team. But that being the case, those things aren't changing. We're not moving out of that stadium. We're not moving out of New Jersey. Um, we've been struggling, like the Bears, for example, to find a quarterback for many a year, and so that's not changing. So if you're the general manager, then you have to have a plan that takes all of that into account, and then is going to execute somehow that we've hired you to execute upon. Where's the execution of that plan then? We're just going to sign bad players? That's the plan? And we're going to let good players like Brandon Eccles walk out the door because maybe he doesn't want to come back and we can't lure him in with a starting job? That's a bad plan. And I think that's what's pissing me off about all this is there doesn't seem to be a coherent, structured, understandable plan moving forward. Having 8 draft picks, if you're going to draft and develop, just having 8 draft picks is not going to get it done. That's not going to get it done. Then we should have made some trades. We should have traded CJ Mosley. Why do we keep releasing all these people, by the way? And we can't make any trades. It seems like there's multiple teams that are interested in Aaron Rodgers, for example. We just have to release him. We can't trade him. We can't get any value for him whatsoever. Devontae Adams, we have to release him. We can't get any value whatsoever. CJ Mosley, one of the smartest defensive players you'll ever meet in your life. We can't get any value from any team in the entire league. We have to release him. I just don't get it. And it makes me sad to think that we released CJ Mosley. This one, no, he's a great Jet. Yeah, he sat out that year with COVID, and that was bad. But I mean, in terms of like the continuity of his career here, didn't and he got injured against Buffalo and all that. But I, I'm not seeing a coherent plan being executed as of right now. Now, this could change tomorrow. Maybe the plan becomes apparent tomorrow when we see something happen. But as of right now, I'm just not seeing it. And I'm just seeing lots of bad moves and some mediocre moves. Now we started off okay. We signed Sherwood. Okay, good. We got Fields. Okay, that makes a lot of sense considering the alternatives. And then from there, it's been, ugh. Now Josh Myers makes sense. All right, some of this other stuff makes sense, but we'll see. Jimmy Jet says he was going through some things, and New England and Mayo just benched him without warning. That's not true. He left the game in the middle of the game. He was the starting left tackle. He got beat 6 times. Let's go through. So I asked Grok to write up a summary because I remembered something that happened, but I always want to have AI check. So this is what happened. He signed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots in March 2024 after being released by the Steelers earlier that offseason. He was named the starting left tackle for week 1, but struggled significantly in the season opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. He was benched after just 12 snaps, having allowed 6 quarterback pressures and 6 pass blocking opportunities. That's why he got benched. I mean, he sucked. What do you want him to do? Get Jacoby Brissett was starting at that time. Get Jacoby Brissett killed. Reports described his performance as poor, and shortly after he left the team. Uh, by mid-September 2024, the Patriots placed Okorafor on the exempt left squad list, signaling his departure was not temporary. Sources indicated he had been, quote, checked out mentally, end quote, and was contemplating his future in football. This move effectively ended his season with the Patriots, as he did not return after the 5-day exemption period expired. So this is not a guy we want I'm sorry. He's there. He plays terrible. They bench him because they're worried about their quarterback's life, and he leaves the team. That's not for me, Jimmy. Somebody else wants to take a flyer on him, okay, but not for me. I mean, what kind of a culture are we building here? We're getting rid of C.J. Mosley, and we're bringing in Okorafor. That's the culture. We're bringing in quitters, and we're letting captains leave. That's what we're doing. Really? That's the AG culture I heard so much about. Really? Let's bring in a bunch of quitters who quit on their team, who aren't good anyway, and let's release our captains. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I'm right there with you, New York Jet fan. I don't see the vision. Somebody explain to me the vision. We're bringing in bums and we're letting go of captains. That makes a lot of sense. Bums. Now, Brandon Stevens, he's not an effort bum. Brandon Stevens will give you all he's got. Now, from an effort perspective, that's well known. And so that's good. So that was a character guy. So that's one of the things I said in my video about him. I said, okay, I can kind of see this. He's got the kind of character you want. He's got the physical athleticism that you want from a scouting perspective. All right, if you maybe we're going to play a little more man than zone, and with our coaching staff, we're going to coach him up, and we're going to get him to turn his freaking head, and and he's going to be okay. All right, so at that time, I said, all right, if I squint my eyes, I could kind of see it, maybe. But not with these moves. Not with these moves. Yeah, Phil, CJ Mosley is a warrior. Sad to see him go. And not only a warrior, but one of the smartest defensive players you'll ever see. I mean, you just keep him around to be kind of like your coach on the field. He probably would have to have a new role on the team for sure, because Sherwood and Quincy would be the main two guys, main two linebackers, and 75 to 85% of the time we play with two linebackers on the field because we're in some sort of nickel. So, his role would have to change, but I don't see why it would be a bad idea to keep him in a reduced role just for his what's up here in his brain. I mean, one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet, football intelligence wise. I mean, we got to release him. And if we want to get rid of him, we can't trade him. Like nobody wants C.J. Mosley on their team. We just release people and get nothing. I don't understand all these releases. I mean, it's the thing. Like this offseason, we don't get to talk. I mean, the media doesn't get to talk to anybody until when? The owners' meetings? When are the owners' meetings? The end of this month? And then, and even then, you're going to get nothing but cliches. Tony, like there were moves to be made here, moves to be made, and they made weird decisions so far. I'm trying to piece together the strategy, Tony. Tony, let me know down below. Let me know if you can see a strategy here. Considering all the moves the Jets have made so far, Tony. I mean, you got the title right in your name right there. It's Tony.GM, right? Hey, Tony, you're .GM. Let me know, .GM. What's the strategy here, Tony? What are we doing? What is the vision? If you were interviewing, imagine you had interviewed for this job, and instead of being Dud GM, you were Dud GM of Dud Jets. And imagine you had gotten the job. So think sort of like in backward format. Let's say you got hired. What is it that you, considering the moves that we're making now, what is it that you would have said to ownership in the interview that got you the job that would have resulted in these moves that we're making now? Let me know, Tony. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. I mean, Joe Blewett's on here on Twitter saying, "Oh boy, the Jet Twitter is on the struggle bus because we're not going to the Super Bowl this year. Don't worry, fellas." What? So we could just bring in anybody, any bum we want. We're not worried about the culture. So the culture just goes out right out the window, and we can bring in bad players because we're not going to the Super Bowl. So if we're not going to the Super Bowl, then why aren't we doing a full rebuild then? Trade Garrett Wilson, trade Sauce Gardner, trade everybody, get all the draft picks, and do a full rebuild. What, we're just punting on 1 year? And then next year we're going to be really good because why? Oh, because of all the people we're going to draft this year, they're going to be real hot shots. Real hot shots. Real hot shots. Well, Ravens fans, for all the Ravens fans out there and all the Chiefs fans and all the Bills fans, you guys are in the gated community. And so from your house and your mansion in the gated community, you're looking down at the ghetto and you're seeing the Bears and the Jets and the Jaguars and the, you know, teams like that. And the Patriots for the time being, though they're probably not going to stay in the ghetto. And so the commentary from the mansions in the gated community are not going to be taken too seriously by the people in the ghetto. Just so you know. Todd, howdy, Todd. So Tony agrees with me. Why would he ask to be cut? People are supposed to like. I mean, one of the reasons we hired Aaron Glenn is players are supposed to like him. Well, all the things I'm hearing in this chat room are people wanted to leave. Eccles didn't want to be here. Tony's saying he wants to be cut and get out of here. So everybody now just hates Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn went from somebody everybody seemed to love. Every comment you heard about this guy was positive, positive praise, glowing reviews. Everybody loves him. But now all the players want to leave and get out of here and don't want to play for AG. I mean, and all you've ever heard is loyal stuff out of CJ Mosley through the years. So all of a sudden he wants to leave. Well, the only thing you could say is maybe he was really tight with Saleh. Maybe he really liked Saleh and Ulbrich, and he didn't like the way the Jets handled them, which is another reason you shouldn't do what frickin' Woody did. It's not going to help anything for one, and for two, all the players that love those people, are going to say the first opportunity they get, they're going to say, "See you later." And you just make it harder on yourself, and it didn't improve the situation, obviously. I don't know, Jets fan. If you're gonna piss me off, you're gonna bring in a guy who quits on a team. I mean, that's the one thing you can't do. Between dirty players and quitting, those are basically the two things you can't do. Yeah, I don't want on my team. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I don't want you on my team if you're going to quit, if you're not going to give effort, and if you're going to be, I guess that's three things. You're going to quit, not give effort in some sort of way, or be a dirty player. Those are the three. I don't want those people here, and they're very hard to root for. How am I supposed to root for this guy? He quit on his team. He was mentally checked out before week 1 of the season. I mean, the team had just given him a contract, and they were starting him at left tackle, and he was performing like dog doo doo, and he mentally checks out. What is that? So I thought we were gonna have a culture of grit and mental resiliency, and never giving up and never quitting. I mean, the one thing you cannot do in life, in in any endeavor, no matter how hard it gets, you cannot quit unless, I don't want to say never. I mean, if you're really in the endeavor that you're supposed to be in and supposed to be doing, and you're supposed to be doing this, but it doesn't go well, the thing you can never do is quit. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we'd be lucky to win 5 now. And then we brought in what's his name, the pass rusher that I'd never heard of from the Titans, some guy who was terrible. and is terrible. I mean, we didn't even talk about him. We signed that guy. Why we signed him, I don't know. But he has no ties to the coaching staff at all, and he's an edge player. We already have 4 edge players. We need defensive tackles, and I'm not seeing anything on the wires about any more moves that we made other than getting rid of Mosley. Man, the Panthers have agreed to a 1-year deal with running back Rico Dowdle. Okay, that's not running back roulette. Right? I mean, I mean, Albert Breer's making a joke about how the Jets are going to wreck Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. Making a joke about how we're rebuilding that Ohio State team. I mean, and now that I mean, there is talk of us trading for Chris Olave too. I mean, just to go another step further with the Ohio State thing. Well, the only reason I think he would do that is if he just he wasn't happy with how they handled Sala and Ulbrich. And we don't even get any cap relief. So Samini's talking about the cap relief. 12.8 million charge stays on the books until June 1. At that point, it drops to 8.4, net savings of $4 million, and also 7.7 next year. So we get after June 1st, we get some savings. So we might make some signings after June 1st. Parkinson's talking about the possibility of see, here's the problem. The possibility of moving Josh Myers in to center and then Tippmann to guard and then AVT to right tackle. The problem with that is Josh Myers is not a good center. You really don't want him starting. So you really don't want to do that. Now you could do it if you have to, but you really don't want to. So yeah, nothing. Trade alert. Oh, the Dallas Cowboys have acquired Kenneth Murray Jr., linebacker. So some minor moves here. Former Cowboy Rico Dowdle going to the Panthers to help out Bryce Young in that offense with Carolina. So yeah, this is what I'm thinking. Unless somebody can tell me what's the plan here. And even infrared is here. I don't know about this. I got a bad feeling not even getting a fifth. Yeah, not even for Adams infrared. Adams, Rogers, they all had markets. Mosley, I'm telling you, Mosley has a market. Now, it's not going to be a strong market. You're not going to get a lot for him, but I bet you he signs on somewhere. Uh, CJ Mosley will probably sign on in Baltimore. He'll probably go back to Baltimore or Philadelphia on a small contract, uh, and try and go for a championship. But somebody might have wanted to flip a 7th round pick for him, or at least maybe a pick swap. You couldn't get a 6th round pick swap, or well, we don't have a 7th round pick, or a 5th round pick swap, or how about a 7-6 pick swap next year? Something. We release a guy, we get absolutely nothing. Can I get a pepperoni pizza? Something. God's sakes, man. Yeah, I mean, this is the worry I have, JoJo. Mougey may be in over his head. I mean, we have Spielman here. We have Phil Savage is still a consultant, and he has a staff. But from what I'm seeing so far, I'm not too confident he knows what the hell he's doing. And I don't know what Spielman's doing and Savage, but so far this is not great. It's really not. Yeah, one thing we're not going to do is listen to Ravens fans tell us what we have to do for our team. And So we'll see you later. See you later. Holds. Well, of course they are infrared. That's the whole point. So one of the things that I was looking for, this is I think part of the other reason I was getting so upset earlier is because if you have Justin Fields, you really need a really strong line. So we have 4 out of 5 there. And now we have a backup in Myers. Okay, that's good. But we need a starting level right tackle, and we need at least one and probably two blocking tight ends to execute the kind of offense that Fields is going to run with us, right? And so maybe that's coming. Maybe we're going to sign Mo Alley Cox, and maybe we're going to sign, Kyle Juszczyk or something, who's a fullback, but you can play him at tight end for blocking purposes, right? And maybe they'll sign minor deals with us, and maybe all will be good. Maybe we'll sign Jedrick Wills or something. But the idea is they are going to stack the box. We're going to continue to run. We're going to be ground and pound. And then once we establish ourselves as a ground and pound team that can run even against stack boxes, then we're going to run play action with Justin and get wide open people like Garrett Wilson and maybe some other receivers that we could find somewhere. Right now, our wide receiver room is pretty thin. But the idea being we're going to be so good at running, you have to stack the box. And then when we do play action, we're going to get some wide open receivers that will be easier for Justin to hit, right? So kind of make his passing life easier because he's so good at the running, right? So that's the idea. Jimmy Jets, is this an attempt to reset the cap? Well, I don't think so. We're not going to be able to reset it that much. We have a lot of dead money next year, no matter what, because we still got to pay up um, for okay, I see something interesting. All right. So so we so we're not going to be able to do that really. There's only so much we can clean up. There's a lot of void years and things that are just in place. Like we're going to have to pay for Rogers next year. We're going to have to pay for a bunch of people in void years. We're going to have a bunch of dead cap. So Jimmy, I don't think so. No. And remember, that's what Douglas tried to do the first year and first year of oops, first year of Robert Sala. Um, and he did a pretty good job of that. But then when you start adding on veteran players, it's harder to do that. So Tony says, well, tanking for Drew Aller is the strategy. Now, this is going to be a thought and this is going to be an idea that percolates Jetland for the fans all this year. Now, so that I don't think this is the strategy actually, but one thing is for sure is that Aaron Glenn and Mougey, but more so Aaron Glenn, has told everybody we're winning now. We're not rebuilding. We're not tanking. We're trying to win now. That's what he has said. So if the idea is to tank for Drew Aller, well, one, it's a kind of a dumb strategy because you're never guaranteed to get the guy unless you're just going to lose all your games and make sure you have the first pick. But which is kind of hard to do. But then AG is just a liar, right? So AG's been going around saying, "No, we're going to win now, win now, win now." He's been saying that to the press. He also said that to Quincy Williams when he talked to him on the phone. So either AG is just a liar, or they're not tanking. Now they might like Drew Aller, of course, but tanking for him is a very risky strategy. Number one, you can never guarantee that you're going to get the first pick unless you just lose all your games, which is kind of hard to do. And secondly, I don't think you can tell a team with this much talent on it that they're tanking. So you can't verbally say to everybody, "Okay, everybody, try to lose." And if you are going to tank, the way to tank, quote unquote tank, is to trade all of your good players for draft picks, and then the players you have in the meantime are bad. You don't have to tell them to perform badly. They're just bad players, and then they naturally lose the game no matter how hard they try. But that's not the approach we're doing. We're not trading Garrett Wilson or Sauce or Quincy or Sherwood or AVT or Titman or any of these guys. As far as we know, I mean, we might, but as far as we know right now, we're not doing that. So while this could be a strategy, I don't think it is the strategy, Tony. I disagree. I don't think so. Now, I could be wrong. But if this is the strategy, they're going about it very strangely. Very strangely. Mhm. Yeah, we could try to trade back if you can get a trade partner, but you can't guarantee it. So Tony says, I would have signed a single quality free agent, retained Moses Eccles Sherwood, and built a roster to support our 26 quarterback. I am scared they are drafting Milrow. Well, Milrow, so everybody understands, Milrow is going to be another talking point until the draft because of Fields. So you got Fields and you got Tyrod. We're going to run the RPO, run around, quarterback power type of offense for Fields. That Fields fits his skill set, and Tyrod can do that as well. And so, which of the quarterbacks in this year's draft fits that mold? Well, it's Jalen Milrow. So the idea is going to be okay, we'll take Milrow and have him sit on the bench. Everybody knows Milrow's developmental. He cannot start right away under any circumstances. He needs to sit 1 year minimum and probably 2 to 3. This guy is developmental, but he has incredible traits. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's elite runner and all that. Um, so the question really is: are we going to what degree is our long-term plan this RPO offense? And that's something I don't think we know right now. Um, and so I don't know. We'll have to see. Like Milrow, if Milrow falls to the 5th round and he's still there, well, maybe you grab him because it's just too valuable to let him go. But using a premium pick on him, like 2nd or 3rd round, I wouldn't. We have too many holes to fill unless we start signing some awesome people that I'm not seeing right now. So um, that's going to be a talking point. But that's the reason people are thinking Milrow is like Fields Jr. Brian Goldstein says, "Can you recap the issue with Mougey?" Yeah, he's making bad moves. That's what's going on, Goldstein. He's not on a tight budget at all. What are you talking about? He has at least 52 million, and we can very easily get way more cap space very easily, and we'll have even more cap space after June 1st. So he's not on a tight budget, and he's acquiring bad players. If he was on a tight budget, why are we giving $13 million to Brandon Stevens, who's a bad corner, when we could have just given 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 to Brandon Eccles, who's better? Why would we do that? Why are we giving money to Chuks Okorafor, who quit on the team last year, when we're trying to build a culture of winners? Why are we releasing the captain when we're trying to build a culture of winners? We're bringing in a quitter and we're releasing the captain. These are all things and reasons why Mougey's doing a terrible job so far. Very obvious. Yeah, well, that could be. Douglas would have got us some 6th and 7th round picks. Yeah, exactly. Jets tanking um, equals 6 wins. Yeah, we can't even tank right, Phil? Daquan Smalls, a new person. Hey, man, new to your channel. So, are you saying that the depth moves they made are terrible? They brought in guys who have started and can actually spot start when needed. Right. I just explained it. I'll explain it again. We signed Brandon Stevens, who's bad, and every Ravens fan will tell you he's terrible. Hallelujah. We got rid of him and we paid a high price for that instead of paying one of our own, Brandon Eccles, who's better and could have been purchased at a smaller price. Second, we brought in a guy who quit on his team and is horrible named Chuks Okorafor. and we released the captain of our team, who's the smartest defensive player you'll ever see. So we're bringing in a quitter who quit on his team and left and was mentally checked out. What kind of a culture are we building full of quitters? And we're letting the captain go. Why? For $4 million after June 1st? Doesn't make sense. Now, some of the moves are good. I like Josh Myers as a backup. That's fine. Um, let's see. Let's go through the rest of these. And hmm, go through all of these. Oh, and we didn't sign Levi Onwuzurike. That's hard to say. Who signed back for with the Detroit Lions for 5.5 million. So we didn't make a compelling offer to Onwuzurike, like 2 million, 16 million, 2 years, 16 million. We could have gotten him. We did not. We didn't get Malik Collins, which we could have. And all these people are sitting around, and we're sitting here with a giant hole in the middle of our defense and nobody to play defensive tackle. So these are all bad decisions. And when you add it up, I'd like to know what the strategy is. Yeah, here's Eccles. And we signed some edge player who stinks, isn't good. There's no reason to sign him. And we brought in Andre Cisco, who was benched by the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. That's how good he is. Andre Cisco was benched by your Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going to be a great safety for us, but he's benched by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he's going to be our starting safety. Great. Jimmy Jets. If Glenn wants to make it past year 3, he's not taking a quarterback who needs to sit 2 years because he won't be here long enough to see what Milrow turns into. That's possible. That's possible. I wouldn't. I mean, to me, the way I see it, Fields is the quarterback for the next 2 years, anyways. Now, it doesn't have to play out that way, but it depends on how he plays, of course. If he plays terrible, then he's not gonna be. But we gotta see what the rest of this squad looks like because as of right now, these moves are no bueno for the most part. Some are pretty good. Josh Myers is a good move. We also re-signed Isaiah Oliver. That's a good move. That's fine. But I do not like releasing CJ Mosley. I do not like signing Chuks Okorafor. I do not like the Brandon Stevens move at all. I don't understand it. I don't like not signing Eccles. Mm, that's all we have so far. Let's see if we can find the tracker, actually. See if I'm missing anybody. We'll try to find the tracker so that way. In the tracker. Mhm. They're making a big deal about this Chooks signing, by the way, like he's some kind of starting player. Um, mm, well, the NFL.com has a good way to do it. Free agent frenzy, free agent update, free agency tracker. Yeah, here we go. AFC East. So this one might be good to take a look at. They brought back Oliver. Yeah, that's good signing. Why not? Yeah, we lost Moses. That's another one, but that's at least understandable. We're going to take a look at these AFC East teams here, Jets worldwide. Um, well, we're going to find out about the OC, Tony. Now, this is something that I was actually curious. I'm actually am curious about. So we're going to see how adaptable and flexible he is, right? So Goff, for the most part, where he made his bones in the NFL, right? The but we're not going to run the Goffense. We're not running the Goffense. For anybody who's curious, we are not running the Goffense with Justin Fields. Not so long as I'm around. I will prevent it. And so the question is like, okay, if we're not going to run the offense, that means we must be running a different kind of offense, which will be the RPO, basically the Lamar Kyler, style of offense. And if that's the case, then that shows a lot of adaptability and flexibility of the OC. Now let's see how it looks. And one of the reasons I'm a little nervous is we need a high quality right tackle. Now maybe we're going to get that at pick 7, but we also need good blocking tight ends. And you kind of need one blocking tight, like Mo Alley Cox would be a great signing. If that would come through, I'd be a lot happier. Not because he's a great pass catcher, because he's a great blocker. Well, it depends what you mean by splash, Jimmy. One of the good things about signing blockers, they typically don't cost that much. Yeah, a few of them, Daquan, true. I understand that part of it. Like Andre, Cisco, yeah, maybe he's a reclamation project. Same thing with Stevens, but Stevens is just so bad. But Eccles, I mean, Eccles is in the same boat. That's the thing. Eccles is 25 years old. On Wanzuruke, that's hard to say. Levi from the Lions is 25 years old. So there are some other options now. Maybe those guys didn't want to come here. Okay, I understand. But Indy says people keep saying we're going to suck this year with no Rodgers. I see we win 9 or more. Well, there's I don't know. It's too much. It's too early to say, Indy. It's too early to say. It's too early to say. Yeah, this is true. It's good that everyone thinks we'll suck. Expectations are low. Uh, but let's check out. Let's check out. Jets Worldwide says, "What about Keenan Allen or Amari Copper? You mean Cooper?" Yeah, at this point, for the right price, I mean, we got nothing. We got Garrett Wilson and a bunch of lint balls. Well, I mean, Jimmy, what makes me feel warm and fuzzy, and Phil Adams will appreciate this, is somebody who blocks somebody. Can I get some blocking? I don't want a guy named Chuks who walked off the field and said, I can't do this anymore. I want somebody who wants to punch somebody in the mouth with blocking. So, yes, we can afford that. We can afford that. We can afford Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox is going to cost us what, $3-4 million? That's it. We can afford Mo. Swamp Ranger comes in with a super chat. Losing off season, maybe winning the regular season. Hey, there's some optimism from Swamp Ranger. I appreciate that. Now, normally, what Swamp Ranger's talking about, normally, the Jets win the off season and lose in the regular season. That's our normal way of doing things. Um, so maybe if we do the opposite, it'd be the Costanza. Can't stand you, Costanza. Uh, we'll do the Costanza. You do the opposite, and maybe you get opposite results. Great idea, Swamp Ranger. Great idea. Yeah, I agree with this too. It's like I think that's what one of the things that was ticking me off about Levi. It's like, man, we couldn't. First of all, we should have been able to outbid them easily. He went for $5.5 million, for God's sakes, and we couldn't outbid them. And then on top of that, he doesn't want to come for more money to play with his old defensive coordinator. Now, maybe he thinks, well, but the Lions are a lot closer to the Super Bowl, so maybe that's, I mean, that's a factor, and that's a problem for us. When you're in the ghetto, you're in the ghetto. That's a problem. It's a big problem. How do you convince people to come into the ghetto to help us get out of the ghetto? It's a big problem. But yeah, So Phil says, yeah, blocking is a thing of beauty. It sure is. And it doesn't cost as much. Uh, Daquan comes back in and says, I wanted Levi, I wanted Eccles back. I think they'll end up bringing in some vets. Two guys I would love, Cam Robinson and Mike Hilton. So Cam Robinson's definitely on my list. I put him on my list earlier today on X, Daquan. But Mike Hilton, I believe, signed elsewhere. So I don't think he's an option anymore, if I remember correctly. Build the trenches. Yeah, that's my philosophy, Bon Jovi. You know me. I'm a trenches guy. So, you know, Jets Worldwide, Dredrick Wills, Ali Cox, right. So let's check out who's signed so we can remind ourselves of something of these things. So the Bills, I mean, if you look at what the Bills did, again, they re-up Ty Johnson, they re-up their fullback, they got Josh Palmer, they extended Khalil Shakur, they signed. I mean, this is a team having a good offseason. I mean, come on. I know it's easier because guys want to play there. But they signed Joey Bosa. Okay, he's going to get injured probably, but they signed Michael Hecht. There's another guy I wanted us to get. They extended Greg Rousseau. They signed Larry Ogunjobi, another guy I wanted to get. They extended Bernard, and then they signed a couple of minor safeties. So, I mean, look at what the Bills are doing. Well, it's easier for them because they have Josh Allen, and they're competing for a Super Bowl, so people want to go there. All right, what did the Miami Dolphins do? Well, they signed Zach Wilson. So at some point is going to be the Zach Wilson revenge game next year. By the way, that's going to happen one time when we play the Dolphins. Tua is going to be injured, and it's going to be Zach Wilson time. That's coming. Dwayne Eskridge, that's not a big deal. But they signed Westbrook Akine. That's another guy I thought we could target. And look, he got 2 years, 6.5 million, 3.2 guaranteed. We couldn't beat that. We couldn't beat that for this guy, NWI, Nick Westbrook Akina, NWI. Jackson Carman, Larry Borum, they signed. James Daniels, this guy's had a very good year last year. They re-signed the linebacker Ife Melifonwu. I thought we were going to get him. Nope. And they signed one of ours, Ashton Davis. So you look at the Dolphins, their priorities in the offseason were offensive line. So they got Daniels, Borum, and Carmen, and backup quarterback. They got Zach Wilson, so that could be questionable. Now, it depends how much he developed under Sean Payton. Some people are saying good things about Wilson vis-a-vis Payton. And they needed some Fonwu's like a cornerback safety type, so they basically got three safeties, some offensive line help, and some backup wide receivers. I mean, this is a decent offseason so far for the Dolphins. It's very logical as to what they need. Now, they have their quarterback situation sorted out. So, they needed backup wide receivers. They needed to fortify the offensive line. They needed a backup quarterback, and they needed help in the back end. They got it. All right, now let's look at the Patriots. Josh Dobbs, the pastronaut. Mac Hollins, glue guy. Tight end Austin Hooper, decent tight end. They stole Morgan Moses, but they overpaid for him. But with as good a guy as he is, you could say, hey, uh, he's worth it. But it's hard to get up to that kind of level for Morgan, especially with he's starting to get injured now. Harold Landry, this is probably another overpay, but still a decent edge player. Now Milton Williams, this is a monster, as we all know. So that guy is something to watch out for. They got a nice linebacker in Robert Spillane and picked up cornerback Carlton Davis. So you see, most of these things are on the defensive side, except for some minor things up here. Now, Morgan Moses is going to be a starter for them. Hooper will get playing time. Hollins will get playing time. Dobbs is a backup. And they're talking about maybe trading Joe Milton. So that could be something to watch out for. And then here's our team, and I don't make any sense of it. And this doesn't even have the defensive end we signed. So Fields, that was good. Myers, that one was good. Sherwood, that was good. Oliver, that was good. This one I'm not for at all. I've explained it a bunch. Stevens, at best, has to be a question mark. And same with Cisco. This guy was benched by the Jaguars at the end of the season. This guy was a starter, but picked on a lot. Never turns his head. Bad ball skills, and we gave him a big contract, relatively big. Like if Stevens was a 1 year deal for $7 million, okay, fine. But we gave him 3 years, 36 million. Now we got to see how the contract is structured. It's probably more like a 2 year deal for 24, but still a relatively large, you know, um, relatively large commitment to a guy who can't turn his head and has bad ball skills. Now, in terms of work ethic, he's excellent. There's nobody going to outwork Brandon Stevens. That we know. Um, I'm surprised they don't have that defensive end that we signed here, Weaver or Warner or somebody, Harold Weaver, or something. I don't even know who it is. Uh, why did we have to sign that guy? I don't know. Look at the Ravens did. I mean, the Ravens just took care of business. Boy, wouldn't you like to be the Ravens? Look at that. Look at that. You just signed these guys who are perfect for you. You re-sign two of your own, and you pick up D-Hop. Why not? Biggest hands who ever played football. No, I mean, just take care of a little business. They got something like ten draft picks, the Ravens. So annoying. So annoying. Uh, yeah, exactly. If we wanted to sign people that quit on teams, I mean, what does it say to the locker room that we bring this guy in? He quit on the team, but we want him here. Why? What kind of a culture are we bringing? Draft a kicker? Well, I don't think we're going to draft a kicker, honestly. I think it's going to be Zerline, Bon Jovi. We got too many holes to fill otherwise. Tony says, yeah, well, we'll see about all those extensions. Daquan says, just checked. Mike Hilton is still available. Okay, I thought I saw that he went somewhere, but maybe not. So we'll see. It's another thing. Swamp Ranger, and it's a lot easier to do, of course, when you have your quarterback situation handled and taken care of. And that's something that we have not had done. Now, if you look at a team like, here's the Bengals, they signed a bunch of dudes. The Browns signed Malik Collins. That was a good signing. Of course, they extended Myles Garrett. The Steelers, look at all the Texans did. Look at the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars always spend a lot of money and then they don't get much value out of it. Johnny Munt, they signed Chuma Idoga. Remember him? Patrick McCarry's a guy I thought we could go after. Tennessee Titans have been building the offensive line. You see, they got Zeitler and Moore. So that was pretty smart. The Broncos, I think, the Broncos are the team to watch out for next year, one of the teams. I love this signing for them, Evan Ingram, because he's the Joker. This is the Joker. Met up with the Joker. We were both too tired to sleep. So in Sean Payton's offense, he has what he's called the Joker player. And this is somebody who flexes around and is in the backfield and is on the line of scrimmage and is all over the place. He calls it the Joker. And Evan Ingram's this new Joker. And that's going to be pretty deadly. They tried to do it with Dulcich, but Dulcich just wasn't good enough. And then they signed DJ Pert, or Matt Pert. I mean, that's somebody I thought we could get. And then they signed DJ Jones. That's somebody I wanted to get. So all these people that I wanted to get going elsewhere. Kansas City Chiefs. And then the Chiefs, with the Chiefs, the thing you have to watch for is how's the new offensive line going to be? That's the only Achilles heel they might have. And I liked a lot of things that the Raiders did. If you look at it, they got Geno, then they tried to bulk up the offensive line a little bit with Kappa and re-signed some of their line players. They re-signed Adam Butler. That's another guy I wanted us to get. Jeremy Chin, another guy I wanted us to get. So I think they did well. Then you have the Chargers. They got Naj, Jalen Rager. None of these other guys are really that great. Oh, they re-signed Khalil Mack. That's important. Bradley Bozeman, their center. So the Chargers didn't really make too many splashes there. Solomon Thomas, our old friend, went to the Cowboys, where Tanzel Smart is now coaching. The Giants, I think, have had a very interesting offseason. Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland to strengthen up the back end. Roy Robertson Harris for the line, as well as Chauncey Golston. They still have a problem with offensive line, I think, even with Stone Forsythe and James Hudson. So it's all going to come down to that, and plus what the decision they make at quarterback. Eagles didn't do too much. Commanders are trying to add and trying to win now. They made a great trade for Laramie Tunsil. They gave Javon Kinlaw way too much money, but they're trying to win now. They signed Jonathan Jones, Will Harris, Zach Ertz, John Bates. Then they got Debo. So that's huge. Marcus Mariota went back there as a backup. And then the Bears. So this is what I wanted to look at. It seemed like the Bears were signing everybody. Well, they made these trades, so it's going to be interesting to see. They basically got a whole new center of their line. They got a center and two guards. And so now, I mean, now if Caleb does not play well this year, what's the excuse now? I mean, he's got the play caller of all play callers, Ben Johnson. He should have an excellent line. There's no reason why his offensive line shouldn't be good. He's got Roma Dunze. He's got DJ Moore. He's got a good tight end. What is it? What else does a guy need? What else does a guy need? Here's the Lions. They got Levi, Derek Barnes. They got our DJ Reed, of course, but we knew he was leaving. They also signed Roy Lopez, so they focus on the line. See how the Lions do it. But then again, when you have the quarterback in place, Packers with a couple of signings, they're never really that active in free agency. Their big one was Aaron Banks. This is probably too much for Aaron Banks, but he's a good, solid player. And then the Vikings, man, look what the Vikings did. They got the best guard, they got an excellent center, and then they went crazy on the defensive line. Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, some back end folks, and they re signed their running back. Man. Couple of strategic signings for the Falcons. Jake Matthews extended. Then they picked up Floyd and Diablo. And then you have the Panthers, and they're spending a lot of money on these Panthers. We'll have to see how that works out for them. Then you got the Saints, got Juwan Johnson, somebody who we were interested in. Tampa Bay Buccaneers re-signed Godwin. And they gave Hassan Reddick a big deal. It'll be interesting to see what if Hassan Reddick comes out and gets 15 sacks next year. How pissed are we going to be? It's like, where was that for us, buddy? Then in the West, I think it's possible that the West is going to belong to the Rams, but the Cardinals coming in second because the Rams have a playoff team already. Plus, they added Devontae and Poona Ford. Pretty good. The 49ers are tearing it down, it seems like. And then, of course, the Seahawks. Seahawks are an interesting team. They signed Sam Darnold, but their offensive line isn't good. And their wide receiver situation right now isn't good. They just signed MVS. So, yeah, there you go. Those are the signings at the moment. Man, there's a lot of comments. Mike Hilton's still available. All right. Still available. Still available. Jake Hummel. Jonathan Jones. Just checking for the latest news. Doesn't seem to be anything additional. Some guy named Jake Hummel. Jake Hummus goes to the Ravens. Uh, oh, rumored. That's probably what I saw, Jimmy. Probably what I saw. Yeah, Daquan says, "What about targeting the wide receivers?" Well, obviously the one that's been well. Let's bring up Spot Track and see who's still available according to them. The one that's been most associated with us is Tim Patrick. So I guess I would say he is in the mix. Let's look up these wide receivers available. UFNs. This went to tight end, wide receiver. Let's take a look at the wide receiver list, shall we? See who's available. Who's available, anyways? Well, we got Koopy Cuppy. He's probably not going to come here. He probably wants to go to a contender to finish out his career. Stephon Diggs, that head case, no thank you. Keenan Allen, maybe on the right kind of a deal. He's on the wrong side of 32, obviously. Amari Cooper, another guy, sure, if he wants to take a low value deal. Brandon Cooks, I'm open to Brandon Cooks. Again, would have to be a 1 year. These guys at the top, they're all on the wrong side of 30, if you notice, except for Deontay Johnson, which we don't want, obviously. Um, but if they're willing to take a um, small deal, but they probably wouldn't be. So then you get into the Josh Reynolds, Devin Duvernay, KJ Osborne, Nelson Aguilar, no thanks. Uh, boy, you look at this list, it's like Noah Brown, maybe 29 years old. Uh, Tim Patrick, here he is. For some reason, he's been mentioned to us many, many times. But boy, this list is not very inspiring. So probably Tim Patrick, Noah Brown, uh, Rondale Moore is available. Is this true? Rondale Moore is available? Is he injured or something? What's going on with Rondale Moore? I mean, if we could get Rondale Moore, he's got some upside. He's only 25. Let me know if there's something. What's going on with Rondale Moore? Why is he available? Is he injured or something? So that could be like a buy low type of situation. Tyler Boyd is available. What about Tyler Boyd? We could grab him. So there's some available. I would say Tyler Boyd, Rondale Moore, Noah Brown. None of these people are going to be really, exceptional. Well, we just need them to be wide receiver twos and threes here. Maybe a guy like KJ Osborne, Josh Reynolds, maybe. And then up here, you got all the 30 pluses. So it's not that inspiring. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we do have some options here. Imi Fehoko. Seems like Tyler Boyd was a hot name last offseason. Hasn't been as hot of a name this offseason for some reason. That's what we got going on in the wide receiver spot. But yeah, we need at least two of them. And then at some point in the draft, we probably got to grab one if possible. Let's check the I think Jones left New England. Yeah, so there's going to be, I think the Jets put out a statement about C.J. Mosley, so you would think that they did. And for some people, it's weird. Like Leger Duzable is saying he loves the signing of Josh Myers. Makes me think AVT is moving to right tackle. Does Leger know how bad Josh Myers played for Green Bay? I mean, he was bad, bad, bad. Like 30th out of 32 centers, bad. Which is fine for a backup, but you really, I mean, if we signed Dalvin Tomlinson, like the Cleveland Browns an hour ago put out something saying, "Thank you, Dalvin Tomlinson, for all of your contributions to the team." If we signed Dalvin Tomlinson, man, okay, now I'm feeling better. Now I'm feeling better. I'm trying to find the Jet statement. I guess it's not here. Joe Blewett says they absolutely aren't moving Titman and AVT for a dude they just paid 3.5 million. Relax, people. That's how I feel. The contract tells you one thing to keep in mind. You know, the contract tells you how the team feels about you. If you're getting a small amount of money, they don't view you as a starter. Because if they viewed you as a starter, you would get more money and there would be more competition for your services. But when a guy gets a small amount of money, it tells you that the team views them as a backup. And for you to break into the starting lineup, then you really got to kill it in training camp and so forth. You know, to change their mind because they already told you what they feel about you. They're giving you a small amount of money. Um, you can change their mind, but again, you got to really, then you really got to perform in training camp and so forth. I can't. I guess they're not putting it out, or I can't find it. Uh, yeah. Okay. So no other breaking news. Okay. There's Rondell Moore. Wait a minute. A lot of comments in here today. Oh, wait a minute. Lost track. Where's this comment about? Wandell Moore is like 5'7". Yeah, I mean he's a slot guy, Jimmy. But so Daquan says Rondell Moore was hurt last year. He only signs a 1-year deal with Atlanta. Last year, my guys would be Lockett, Patrick, and Zacchaeus. Yeah, I didn't mention Zacchaeus. He has a weird name, but other than that, Olamide Zacchaeus. Market value. Let's see. 2 million. Yeah, I'd throw him into the mix. 27 years old, $2 million estimated. Yeah, I'd throw him in the mix. Patrick will be in there. Who's the other one you said? Oh, Tyler Lockett. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit age heavy if you think about Tyler Lockett's 32 and a half already, and then you got Tim Patrick 31. Uh, you really, those, but that being the case, I mean, you have to take on risk somewhere, right? If you're the Jets, you got to take on risk somewhere. And so at this point, it's looking like it's going to be the age area that we're going to have to take on risk to get some of these guys. Zacchaeus is 27, so that'd be pretty good. Rondell Moore was hurt last year. Well, that's something we could maybe take a flyer on. What's Rondell Moore's value? Market value 1.5. So there's a low cost flyer, 24 years old. That seems like something that we could do, where you just take a flyer on a guy. I mean, shoot, you could sign all three of those guys for less than $7-8 million combined. And if that's the case, then one of them flames out. You can still draft one, and now your wide receiver room isn't looking so terrible. Jets Worldwide says Olave trade. Yeah, that's the other thing that's being talked about. Let's bring Olave here and just make it Ohio State all over again. Depends what they're looking for in terms of compensation. I wouldn't want to trade any of my draft picks this year, but maybe I could give him a 6 next year or something. But it's hard to know what Olave would fetch on the market because he's been a really good receiver, but then he got injured with serious concussions last year. So you don't know what his value is and what they're looking for. I'm not going to trade a second or third or any kind of premium pick for him, and they probably want one. So I'm not sure if that could work. Phil Adams, we can fix Lazard. Yeah. Jimmy Jets, I hear the Eagles are letting Becton go. We need a right tackle. Yeah, interestingly, Becton has not gotten a deal yet. You've seen a lot of guards get big deals, right? So far in this market, Becton not one of them, oddly enough. So you got to wonder about that. Why isn't Becton getting signed? Sure, that's what he's saying to his agent. What's going on here? Had a really nice year for the Eagles, obviously. So we got to see. Don't know about that. I mean, I'd be surprised if Pittsburgh really wanted. Why would Pittsburgh want Richardson? Richardson is a developmental, high variance quarterback. That's not what Mike Tomlin's all about. I mean, they tried that with Kenny Pickett and they got rid of him real quick. I think they want to right now. I think they want a steady Eddie. That's why they're looking at Rodgers. I think their best bet is to just reunite DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson. Just have a moonballs offense. The problem there is Arthur Smith doesn't want to run the moonballs offense. But it's like you sign DK Metcalf. Like if you sign DK Metcalf, you signing Aaron Rodgers doesn't make a lot of sense because Aaron Rodgers needs precise route runners, as we all know from the red line incident and other things, right? So Aaron Rodgers needs precise route runners, and that's what he's wanting. He's very demanding, and Garrett Wilson was getting all upset with him all the time, et cetera, et cetera. Well, DK Metcalf is a great wide receiver, but he's not a great route runner. He's more of a brute force kind of a guy, speed, power. You know, he's not going to run precise routes. So for a guy like that, you actually want Russell Wilson. He just throws moonballs up to him and let him go get it. You know, so I'm not sure why the Steelers are hesitating so much, unless they just really, really don't want to deal with Russell Wilson's BS, all the other BS that he brings, I guess. So there's that. Yeah, Jojo. Well, if that's the case, where's the tight ends then? I could understand that. Like that's what I was thinking too. When I'm talking about a strategy, it's like, listen, if we're going to run 12 and 13 personnel, okay, fine. Where's the tight ends then? Mougey, you know, and you're going to need. So maybe we pick out two of those guys from the list who are low cost, $2 million, $3 million guys, just to have some experienced wide receivers who can come down and block and do insert blocks, right? But then where's the tight ends? You can't pretend like Jeremy Ruckert is something. He's not right now. He's the only one we got on the roster other than Andrew Beck and Zach Kuntz, who are essentially nothing. So what in the world are we talking about here? Now, maybe we sign Mougey Cox. Maybe we sign somebody else that I'm not thinking about. In fact, let's look up the tight ends, shall we? Let's see who's still available. Well, mm, Mercedes Lewis is available at age 40. Uh, we need one. You can't just go in the draft, Jimmy. You got to, I mean, we could get one in the draft. You're not going to get two, really. Conklin's available. So, like, let's say tomorrow we sign Conk and Allie Cox, and then we draft one in the draft. Okay. Okay. I'm all right with that. If that happened, then I'm a little happier. Mo Alley Cox is your blocker. Tyler Conklin's your pass catcher, and then you take one in the draft to be your, you know, to be a to develop into one of your main guys. All right, cool. But that hasn't happened yet. And if you look down the list, the rest of this list is not inspiring, really. I mean, maybe you could take a shot with Peyton Hendershot. Uh, hmm, hmm, list is not at all. Maybe Ian Thomas as a blocker. Maybe you bring back Kenny Yeboah. I mean, Mercedes Lewis is here. He's 40 years old. 40. Gerald Everett, he played terrible for the Bears last year, so I wouldn't be interested in him. I don't know what's going on with that guy. Yeah, re-sign Conklin. Yeah, I mean, re-sign Conklin, sign Ali Cox, draft one. I'm fine with that. But then we got to see it happen, and then I'm still not sold on on our right tackle situation. But maybe we address that in the first round. Somebody took a picture of Aaron Rodgers. Um, Daily Mail US exclusive. Solemn Aaron Rodgers caught strolling along a beach as he continues to ponder his NFL future. He's strolling along on the beach. And Ian Rappaport says, not solemn, just reflective, taking his time. So, who knows? Or maybe he's contemplating retirement. I mean, who knows, really? Right. So, I got to say, you guys have not made me feel any better about Darren Mougey. Maybe a little better in that maybe some of these moves are going to, you know, are sort of like, minor moves, and then the major moves are coming tomorrow or the next day. But I still don't feel good about right tackle. I don't feel good about the fact that we brought in Chuks, who is a quitter. I don't want him on the team. I want him out of here. I don't like it. I don't like what we did with Brandon Stevens. I don't like what we did with not bringing back Brandon Eccles. Uh, I don't like what we did bringing in that edge player, Weaver or Warner or whatever his name is, some rando. I mean, unless we're bringing him in for $1 million, something tiny, tiny like that. All right, I guess, but we're not bringing in any defensive tackles. We're not bringing in any tight ends. We haven't brought in a single defensive tackle, a single wide receiver, or a single tight end. What's going on? What is going on? Yeah, Boa. Yeah, Dallas Goddard is available, but if you're going to trade for Dallas Goddard, just sign Tyler Conklin. It's the difference. I don't want to give them a draft pick. Now, Michael Mayer, if you remember from Back to the Future, Mayer. Now, Mayer's a different idea because Mayer is young guy, second round pick. And yeah, it gets PC. It gets blurry every now and again for some reason, and then I got to change the settings and change it back. I don't know why that happens. Probably because of the type of camera. But Mayer is is an interesting guy because he's young, second round pick from a few years ago, and he's a good blocker that we know, and he's a decent pass catcher. So Mayer, I would consider a trade for because it's not like Dallas Goddard's in his 30s, I think, at this point. He's sort of older. He's just basically like Tyler Conklin esque. Maybe he's a tiny bit better, but you just sign Conklin if you want to go that route. But Mayer, because of the age and because of the upside, is something I would be very interested in looking at to see what are they interested in terms of a pick. Now, I probably would not give up a premium pick, but if they're looking at a like way I would put it is if they're looking for a fifth round pick, I do it. But they might not. They might want to hold out for a fourth, and then I'd really have to think long and hard. Like maybe we give them a fourth and they give us a sixth back or something like that. Also, something like that. Something like that. But I would look at that. I would look at that. Phil Adams says life's a beach for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Well, I heard I saw something reported like he's made the most money out of any player in NFL history or something like that. Rick Furdy. So far with what we've done in free agency, who would be your number one choice with our 7 overall pick of the draft? Well, if we'd have made no more moves, which would upset me, but if we did, then number 7 pick would have to be the best tackle you could get. So if Campbell's there, you take him. If Membu is there, you take him. If and if not, then you go with Banks. And if all three are gone for some reason, then you could take Tyler Warren, for example. But or I mean, it depends who's there. Like if Mason Graham is there, as it stands now, we need defensive tackle very badly. But Mason Graham is probably not getting past 5. So, you know, but it's one of those. It's one of that group. It's the trench guys. It's Mason Graham or a tackle or Tyler Warren. That's the bucket. So, but I'm kind of hoping. I kind of think offensive tackle is the hardest one to find. Well, defensive tackles are hard to. Well, I don't know. Offensive tackle, I always want to take a swing on offensive line because it's the most important thing. The offensive line is the one position group on a whole team that doesn't need any other position groups to function well, if you think about it. The defensive line also, but so if I have multiple needs and they're all the needs are the same, then I'm gonna fortify the offensive line and try to get by with the other things somehow else. Maybe somebody shakes free in a roster cut down, and we're going to have money after June 1 because of the Rogers contract situation. So we'll have more money freed up after June 1st, so that we could use that for any kind of roster pickup, any kind of cut pickups, from other teams. But if all the needs are equal, then I am going offensive line. So it's going to be for me. It's probably in order: Will Campbell, Membu, Banks, assuming Mason Graham's gone. If Mason Graham is there and Will Campbell's there, for me that's yeah. I don't know. I have to think long and hard about it. Those two probably up there in terms of the grades, and then Membu being close behind, and then Tyler Warren in the bucket as well. So, yeah, I guess the answer is it depends, but that's the kind of thing we're looking at there. Lazard for mayor. Yeah. Now, interestingly, we have not released Lazard yet. We did give him permission to seek a trade. If he can find one, that would be wonderful. But uh, you know, if somebody wants to give up a 7th round pick for Alan Lazard, probably not. Probably not. Probably not. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for tonight. Seems like all of the moves are slowing down. Well, thanks for joining me. Thank you for this session of I don't know, therapy session. Seeing all these other teams get better and seeing us signing some bums, kind of annoying. But we'll see what the rest of the week brings. Might have to do some more emergency live streams depending on what's going on in Jets land. So to stay tuned for those. If not, then there'll be Coffee with Frankie, 10 a.m. Sunday morning, as always. And otherwise, I'll see